Hello, it's me again with the second part of putting the VaVaVoom into your Zoom. And thank you so much for all the follows and retweets yesterday for the first part of it, which was to do with the use of your face when you're using digital platforms. And I wanted to start this one off, which is actually all about how you construct what you're going to share. I wanted to start it off by reiterating something that I said yesterday. And that was to do with when you're using a digital platform like this, the most important thing is your face, because people are experiencing you most often individually in their homes. This little thing here, this is the most important. And somebody said to me, it's all about body language. Well, yes, it is when you're on the stage. Yes, it is when you're performing in a way, but not in this situation. Let me show you. I'm going to stand up and move backwards so you can see all of my 4'11" body. Well, at least some of it. Get ready. So if I'm back here and I'm kind of performing to you and using my whole body, it seems quite artificial in this situation, almost like I'm a game show host or I'm trying to sell you something. It is inauthentic and it is not necessary. I'm just sitting with you in your living room or at your desk. This is all you need to see. And of course, a few hands will come in. Well, not a few, just two. So now that I have reiterated that and highlighted what I mean about the face being the most important, let's get on with how to VaVaVoom your Zoom or other digital platforms and look at how we can make our content more interesting and engaging. Now, last time I did this, I got the numbers mixed up. So number one was what I've just done. This is more of a conversation, less of a performance. And you're talking to a woman who performs a lot all around the world on stages. I know the difference. If I only had an audience of 1 or 2 or 3 people, I would not be on the stage. I'd pull my chair up next to them and I would tell them a story, not perform it. Number 2 is always think of your data, your information as a story. Almost every person has been exposed to stories and story forms, whether it's the hero on a quest, whether it's a story where everything builds up to a climax and a big explosion at the end, whether it's a story that has a few ups and downs, or just a story that has a perfect arch, a beginning, a middle, a bit of tension, and the resolution. So all of us have that in our memories. And when we use those story structure forms in order to share our data, our information, it's almost like our listeners are remembering something they had forgotten rather than learning something new. Now, some of you out there might say, well, I'm a scientist and I can't do that. It's fine. Because there is this brilliant book, and I will be referring to it as I go through, especially for those people who are using science and data. And this was recommended to me by Lucy Rogers, who I admire greatly. And what Randy Olsen says, who was a scientist and then he became a scriptwriter in Hollywood, he says that even on science papers, you have an introduction, you have your method and your results, and then you have your discussion at the end. That's a story. The introduction is the start of your story, the method and the results are the middle of your story, and the discussion is the end of your story, pulling it together, sharing and disseminating. So always think of your information as a story. It needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. To make that easier, when you're giving out your information and doing your presentations, you need to be able to identify what you're up against. What are you fighting against? And also, who are you going to turn to help? So let me give you an example of this. I should have thought of this before I started this recording. Let's see. So if I was going to present the work that I do, I might say something about me to start with, who I am. I'm Patrice. I'm passionate about words, passionate about giving people the strength and the courage to use their voice and tell their story. That's the start. And I'm on a quest to enable people to do that, but out there in the shadows, there lurks a whole business that wants to take away our voices, wants to fill us with a feeling of having no value and having no worth. But I know that there are people out there who are going to help me on my journey. You people out there, in fact. I want you to fight these demons of false news and these demons of beauty news and advertising and this whole culture of making us feel inadequate. I want you to come with me on my quest. I want you to join me on my journey. I want us to defeat the lies that we're told about us not being good enough. So I could phrase it something like that. Now, some of you might be saying, well, that's fine for the work that you do, but not the work that I do. So let's choose something else, perhaps an organizational idea. So let's see. We're here together in this organization and we want to change the world. We want to make our world a better place. And we want to make the people in this organization feel that they're making a difference. But there have been systems in this organization that have made us feel inadequate. There have been systems in this organization that have stopped us receiving the feedback that we need, receiving the news that we need about us being important and a vital part of this organization. I want to change that now because we're introducing a new system. And this system has the capability to enable you to know your worth and enable others to see your worth. It's a digital device, an app that you can download and use as you're going through your workday to enable you to know what role you're playing within the organization and how valued you are. And it helps us as the leaders of the organization see what your needs are. We are incredibly excited about it. And we're incredibly excited about this journey that we're going on together to make our workforce a better, stronger workforce in order to be able to create the change we want to see in the world around us. Can you see what I'm doing? It's this whole idea of the people that you're talking to become the heroes on your journey, your helpers, and you have to make them feel that they're fighting against something. You have to name the demons. And the demons might be false data. The demons might be things that you don't need to conquer, but you need to control or share in a different way. So when you're creating your data, your presentations, think of it as a story and try and identify what you're fighting against and who's going to help you battle, who's going to be at your side, who's going to be your hero. Number 4. Ta-da! And, but, so. What do I mean by that? And why was the name Trey Parker written underneath? Going back to this book. So Trey Parker, for those of you who know, he wrote South Park, the animation. He also wrote the Book of Mormon. And the author of this book, Randy Olsen, was talking to Trey. And Trey said that when he does a first draft of any script, he goes back And he changes all the ands, so and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, to and, but, and so. Or it could be and, but, and therefore. And what does that do? You can use that to create almost mini story arcs within your presentation. You could say something like, so I'm a international storyteller and I lived in Ghana for 6 years, and then after I lived in Ghana for 6 years I came back to Britain, and then I set up the storytelling cafe with a colleague of mine, and then. And essentially what you're doing is giving a list, not a story. If you use this technique, and, but, and so, you could say, I'm a storyteller and I went to live in Ghana, but while I was living there, I learned a huge range of skills. So therefore, when I came back to Britain, I could share these skills, and I developed this thing called the Storytelling Cafe with a friend of mine. But while doing that, I realized that there was far more potential. So I took that work out further. Can you see how much more interesting that is? So try using the and, but, and so technique developed by Trey Parker. Number 5, use metaphor. It activates more, I forgot how to spell it, neural connections. What do I mean by that? If you just give a list and bullet points, the only part of our brain that is firing off is what's called the Wernicke area, the Broca area, the language processing area, which is located in the left brain hemisphere. However, if you use metaphor and sensory language, the sensory cortex is activated and fires off as well. Let me give you an example. Last night, I drank so much alcohol that this morning my tongue felt like an old dried up sock inside my mouth. Now, some of you, when you heard that, will have literally gone, and your faces would have looked like a squeezed lemon. That's because you had an emotional reaction to it, and that sensory cortex lit up because of the words that I used. So if we want full engagement with regards to our neural pathways, our synapses firing off, we need to start looking at emotional language, sensory language, and metaphors. And also the most profound thing about metaphors is that they make an incredibly complex thing very simple. So often when I'm talking about performing stories or delivering workshops, I will use the metaphor of a boat on the sea. And for me, the sea is the passion that drives the boat forward. The boat itself is my care for the information I'm giving or the people I'm working with. It's what I hold precious. And the rudder is kind of like my intellect and my knowledge directing where I want this boat to go. In actual fact, that's like your neocortex, higher order thinking skills, your sensory cortex, care, emotions, and then your reptilian brain, the primal stuff that surges us forward. When I use that metaphor, people can start to understand the complexity of storytelling through the simplicity of the metaphor. I would say the thing that quite often is missing when we do these presentations is the passion, because some of us are a bit scared of showing it or letting it go, because it's not professional. So we must stay very focused and use this type of voice, which is fine, but it won't be as engaging as if you show your passion for your subject. If you ain't got no passion, your boat's going nowhere. And the last little point here is give yourself a cut and paste. Anybody who's young won't know what that means. But in the old days, you used to often cut and paste information if you typed it and put it in the wrong place. So you'd literally cut out a word and paste it back where it should be. And the same can happen with presentations. You could have started doing your presentation and got halfway through and suddenly realized, I didn't say that really important thing at the start. And then you can feel your voice go and your face might go red and you think, oh my God, nothing will make sense now. Stop. Say, what I forgot to tell you at the start of this presentation is you just cut and you paste the information there. You own that. In the same way that yesterday I said, own the meeting. Say if you're going to be disturbed. Say if you think the doorbell might ring. Own what might happen, because then you make yourself feel more comfortable and the listeners feel more comfortable. If you have forgotten to say something, just stop and say, do you know what? I forgot to tell you this vital piece of information. Fast forward, back here now, let's carry on. Give yourself a break. And especially nowadays with digital platforms, we're all learning new things. There will be some people who will know way more than you about certain things, and some people who know way less. Some people will be able to deal with these tools easily, and some people less so. Don't compare. Try not to compare. I remember I was doing some training with research fellows at Birmingham University, and I was showing them and training them on interactive evaluation techniques. I wrote a book about it. And I have never been to university. I'm not really qualified to do anything, which is why I'm so good at doing this. And I remember walking into the university with all these arts materials like pipe cleaners and feathers and glue sticks. And I was feeling really anxious because in my head I was thinking, oh my God, it's academics, it's academics, it's academics, and feeling incredibly scared. And when I walked into the room with all my craft and arts materials, I saw the academics. I mean, my eyes started to bleed from the whites of their eyes becoming so vivid as fear was etched in them, because they were looking at the pipe cleaners and the feathers. And I could literally hear all the academics going, oh my God, no, it's a creative, it's a creative, it's a creative. Once I acknowledged that, once I said to them, do you know what? I'm actually feeling really anxious because I feel slightly threatened by academics because I don't feel that I'm one. Then they could relax. And they said, actually, we're feeling pretty scared too. Own the elephant in the room. If you don't, it will own you. Although I think being owned by an elephant might be quite nice. I hope this was useful. And I will be doing another one, which will be all about the tone of your voice and the rapidity with which you can speak and how you can use a certain rhythm to get a point across. So this incredible tool, our voice, will be the next thing I'll be giving you some handy hints on. Thank you for listening. Bye.